If you clicked on this video, chances are you're a fan of animation. I mean, let's be honest, animation is pretty freaking cool. Just look at me. That's literally what I am. The result of some dude sitting in front of a computer moving a virtual puppet through 3D space to give the illusion of a living, breathing character. And the crazy thing is, it cost free $99. The 99 being the amount of time it took to animate this scene. So if I'm willing to spend all that time on animation, that must mean I'm very passionate about it. Well, that would be a correct assumption, but you might be looking at the consistency of my upload schedule and you're probably disagreeing with me. Well, guess what? I'm not here to talk about my upload schedule, I'm here to talk about animation. What comes to your mind when I say animation? Could it be the movies released to theaters by big-time companies like Disney or DreamWorks? Or maybe it's a favorite cartoon that you watch on TV. Or maybe you're one of those anime fans. What I'm trying to say is that the medium of animation is used a bunch. It's become the norm for a lot of storytelling. Just last year, 24 animated movies were released to theaters. And that's just theaters. According to this list I found on Wikipedia, there were so many other films. Man, just look at all those movies scroll by that I'm not going to talk about or watch at all. But it definitely proves my point that animation is big in this day and age. Not only that, but it's come a long way. Have you ever wondered where animation first started? If not, that's okay, because I did all of the wondering for you, which means I spent hours looking at a bunch of Wikipedia articles I'm going to choose to trust, gathering information about this topic. And I'm going to take the next however many minutes relaying it to you in the most coherent way I possibly can. Ready? Cool. So before I go into all the information I have in store for this video, I want to define animation. So let's take to Google for this one, shall we? Ooh, AI-generated answer to make my life easier. So this states that animation is the process of making still images appear to move by creating the illusion of motion through a series of images. Okay, I'd say that sounds about right. Now let's search up what the first ever animation was. Surely this will provide the answer for where it all began. Oh, another AI-generated answer. But wait, what's that right underneath? Another answer, perhaps? Oh my, this one has in big lettering a film called Phantasmagoria. Oh, and looky there, right next to that text I'm not going to read. Those look like pictures. But not just any pictures, they look like drawings. Drawings that look like they're a part of an animation. That must mean this is the first animation ever. I don't know how this couldn't be true. It's on the first page of Google. So Phantasmagoria is what started it all, huh? The film that started animation as we know it. Well, I would say that's case closed. Now, if you're ever hanging out with your friend and they randomly say, "Yo, bro, something's been weighing on my mind about animation recently, and it's the fact that I don't know where it all started. Do you know?" You can settle your friend's curiosity with this answer. "Well, my dear friend, who I love and cherish, but is unfortunately uninformed on this topic, I, the clearly more informed and by circumstance more intelligent one, can deliver the exact answer to your curious ears, in view of the fact that I am well researched on topics such as these. So without wasting any more of your precious time, which isn't wasted time at all if I'm the one talking about information I spent arguably more valuable, more precious time obtaining, because I have so little of it on my hands, with putting most of it towards researching obscure topics so I can further develop my knowledge, and at the same time increase my intelligence. And since I'm such a nice and considerate person, who is also super humble and kind, who enjoys sharing information with those whose minds are more lacking in understanding such topics as these, I will be more than happy to tell you that the answer to your question is Phantasmagoria. Is what someone who is super lazy would say. But not me. Phantasmagoria is not the very beginning of animation. Sure, it's an answer on the first page of Google that doesn't require you to click a link, but it's time we get rid of that high schooler mentality and actually click links. Ugh. But like I said earlier, I did all of the work so you don't have to. Sure, most of the links I clicked were from Wikipedia, but I'm like 90% sure the stuff I'm going to talk about is true. Yeah. So what was the first ever animation? Well, I personally don't think that's a question that can be answered. And identifying the first ever animation doesn't matter for talking about where it all started. But I'm fairly certain it all started with these thingies. You might be wondering what these thingies are. Well, my dear viewer, these are contraptions. Contraptions capable of animation in one way or another, some of which date back more than 200 years, and even predates phantasmagoria. These devices are the magic lantern, the
Phenakistoscope.
Yeah, that. Then we got the zoetrope. And then the last of the thingamajigs includes the...
Théâtre optique.
But I'm gonna say theater optic, like a true American. I am now going to very quickly talk about each one of these devices because I am on page 6 of this script and I've got a lot more to talk about. Alright, let's go. Here we got the magic lantern, invented sometime in the 1650s, possibly by a dude named Christian Huygens. I say possibly because that's what the Wikipedia article said. Anyways, besides having a cool freaking name, this sucker was one of the first image projectors ever. It would project images painted on a glass slide using a light source like a candle or an oil lamp. But that's just what they want you to think. It clearly used magic to project images. Magic is literally in the name. As for animation, the device was rather limited, only capable of alternating between 2 slides to convey a repeating movement or a sudden action. Now, this may be pushing it a little bit given the definition I stated earlier, but I would say this is a series of images creating the illusion of motion, even if the amount of images is 2 and the illusion is not very convincing. But people didn't stop here. Folks got creative with this thing, using stationary slides that would serve as backgrounds, while other slides would move around on top, sort of like puppeting 2D images. Now that I think about it, people from 300 years ago were doing 2D puppet animation on layers before art and animation softwares were even a thing. Now that's impressive. Another thing that's pretty impressive is the phenakistoscope, invented in 1832 by 2 dudes named Joseph Plateau and Simon Stamper. And besides having a name that challenges my ability to be a coherent speaker of English, it was pretty cool for what it was. Look, I made my own. It was kinda like a pinwheel, but the pinwheel part was a cardboard disc with images laid out in a circle around the disc's center, each image being a part of a sequence to create an animation when spun. But as you can see, it doesn't work. It's just a blur of colors. That's because you're viewing it wrong. As you can see, there are little rectangular holes above each image. And what you're supposed to do is hold the spinning wheel up to a mirror while looking through the holes. And bam! The illusion works. And would you look at that, it's pretty smooth. Pretty cool though, right? Sure, the animation was limited to a small little loop, sort of like the world's first version of a GIF. Just without the capability of adding a caption that would make it 100 times more funny. But it was fluid animation in its earliest form, and it was a leap forward in the right direction. Talking about a leap in the right direction while at the same time not at all, we got the zoetrope. It's supposedly pronounced zoetrope, but I honestly find saying it like zoetrope is more fun. The zoetrope was invented by a guy named William Ensign Lincoln, and this thing was basically the same concept as the phenakistoscope, with an image sequence arrayed in a circle with slits above for viewing. But instead of being on a lame cardboard disc, the images would be within a cylindrical drum, eliminating the need for a mirror. You would just look inside the drum through the slits and watch the magic happen. Now, you'd still be viewing a looping animation, so there weren't any achievements made animation-wise. It was just another contraption doing what the phenakistoscope did, but better. But something better than everything I just mentioned is the final device I want to talk about. The theater optic. It was the first ever motion picture device capable of projecting animated films. It was created by a dude named Émile Renaud in 1888. And I'm gonna do my best to describe how this worked as simply as possible. So images, usually just characters without background, would be painted by hand on these gelatin plates and framed on a cardboard strip which would wrap around a large central turning wheel that transferred the strip between 2 copper spools. And on each corner would be these pinch rollers to further guide the strip. The plates would pass in front of a magic lantern and would reflect the images off of like 4 different mirrors and onto a screen for viewing. And a completely separate magic lantern would project a stationary background for the animation to be projected on. This thing was insane. Animation was making breakthroughs outside of viewing a loop of images through a slit in a disc or a cylinder. We were getting storytelling through this medium, baby! Alright, we are nearing the end, and I am now going to completely ignore the 3 other animation thingies I just talked about and just focus on the theater optic, specifically some of the animations made with it. I said we were getting storytelling through it, and that's what I want to talk about. Now, the theater optic was used to create a number of animated films. To start off with, we have Unban Bach, which is one of the first ever films to be played on the theater optic. Oh, dang, it's a lost film? Well, looks like I'm not talking about it then. Well, another film by the name of Le Clown et ses Chiens is... Oh, come on! I guess things really do get lost to time. Let me see, which one of these films isn't actually lost? Ah, yes, this film by the name of Pauvre Pierrot. It translates to Poor Pete. Pete being the name I will use from now on for my sake. A film by Charles-Émile Renaud, the same person who invented the theater optic, which looks to be the case for every film played on the device. Anyways, the film starts with a man jumping over a wall into a courtyard. According to the synopsis on Wikipedia, this character's name is Harlequin, even though the captions of the video marks this guy as Pete. But it does make more sense for his name to be Harlequin for reasons I will cover shortly. So in the courtyard, Harlequin meets with his girlfriend, Her name is Columbina, but the interaction between the two is cut short when there is a knock on the wall. So Harlequin goes and hides behind a pillar, and Columbia goes to the wall, which is for some reason also a door, but just looks like a wall. Anyways, according to the Wikipedia synopsis, the real Pete comes in and is trying to win over Harlequin's girl with flowers, but Columbina isn't giving him an inch by the looks of it. So he goes ahead and leaves through the wall door, which still doesn't look like a door. Then Harlequin pokes out from behind the pillar for a sec, before hiding again. I'm guessing he told Columbina to go back inside, which she does. Then Pete comes back with one more attempt to win over the girl. He pulls out a string instrument and tries to serenade her, but our boy Harlequin interrupts his performance with some shenanigans, all while staying out of sight. And eventually he gets too freaked out, probably thinks he's being haunted by a ghost and scurries out of there in fear. Once he's gone, Harlequin hits a little jig like he's emoting after winning a game of Fortnite, then goes inside Columbina's house, and the film ends. Alright, the first thing I want to cover, the names in the film. Like I said, the film caption marks this character as Pete, but the synopsis marks him as Harlequin. And I gotta agree with the synopsis on this one because the title means Poor Pete, and nothing happens to this guy that makes me feel bad for him in the least bit. As for the other character, he was bullied by the main character and scared into leaving. And though I didn't feel bad for him because he was trying to steal my boy's girl, I'm sure some people would feel sorry for him. Perhaps uttering the phrase, poor guy. And what's the name of the film again? That's right, Poor Pete. And this only convinces me that this guy is Pete and this guy is Harlequin. And as for the girl, I don't need convincing. Her name is Columbina, which is Colombian spelled wrong. For the time, this is an outstanding piece of work in my opinion. I enjoy the art style and the way the characters move. I enjoy that you can slightly see through the characters as if they're ghosts wandering the courtyard. I thought the comedy of Harlequin interrupting Pete's performance was good. If I was an audience member watching this back in the 1890s, I think I'd be laughing and kicking my feet in my chair. Unfortunately, my humor is broken beyond repair now, so all the film was able to get out of me was a slight exhale from my nose. Sort of like I can recognize comedy taking place, but I don't laugh out loud. Anyways, pretty good animation, good story, good ending. I rated a 2 out of 2 blanks.